Welcome back to Jeff and Rabbi. We've been on break. I gotta tell you, you don't mind if I tell you, Rabbi Freeman went on a, was it 10-day, 10-city Herman's Hermit reunion tour. It was a great tour. It was the music I heard was great, but after the third tour, somebody broke a hip. It was over.
He fell and he couldn't get up.
One of the hermits went down and couldn't get up. But I heard it was a pretty wild tour until that ended. So I'm glad you're back, though.
Yeah.
I'm glad you made it back.
Yeah.
You know, and in the meet last night, you know, I'm excited to Rabbi's background and show. Rabbi Freeman calls me up and says he wants me to read a tractate of Talmud. Which is exactly what I wanted to do during the Super Bowl, so I thought it was and it was almost a little bit more exciting, I think, than the Super Bowl. It was the Talmud I read. So I read the Talmud, and I'm going to summarize for everybody here what this said, and see if you guys can figure it out, because I got a little lost in it. It's got this guy, he's a rabbi, I assume, and he's traveling to free some hostages. And he gets to this river, and he can't cross the river. So he says to the river, I'm on a mission from God. You need to open up and split open for me.
Right.
The river says back to him, this is the Talmud, so the river says back to him, I can't do it because I'm also on a mission from God, and I'm supposed to just flow the water like this. So then he gets mad at the river.
No, he said, but the river says not only,
what?
The river makes an argument. The river says, why does the river think he should be superior to the guy?
Well, I didn't read that part.
So the river says, you're going to do your mission. You may succeed and you may not succeed.
Right.
But I am for sure succeeding.
Right.
I'm doing my thing right now. I'm flowing. Point. You might make it, you might not. So I should win.
So that was a good point. So the river agrees. The river agrees. He said, no. So wait. So he gets mad at him. Rabbi gets mad at the river and said, if you don't open up for me, I'm going to talk to God and stop the water from flowing for you, and then you won't even be able to have a river. You won't be a river anymore.
Right.
So the river gets a little nervous. He says, okay, I'm going to split the river, you can cross. But then the rabbi throws in the fact, but I got a guy with me here who's bringing food for Passover, so he's also on a mission for God, so can he come across too? So the river says, okay. But then he says, now I also got this Arab guy here with me who I would think it'd probably be dishonorable if we don't let him go too, so can he come too? And the river says, okay. Now this is the part I got confused in. Somehow this Rabbi Joseph comes along, I don't know where he came from, and says, this guy, this rabbi, must be mightier than Moses. Because Moses only split the sea one time. This rabbi split the sea 3 times.
Right.
Well, maybe he split the 3 times. We're not sure. Maybe he split it. They all went together. Maybe he split it 3 times. So he's mightier than Moses.
Right.
This is the part I think I fell asleep.
Right.
And I woke up and the Super Bowl was over. And that was it.
And you woke up, and thankfully they took Peyton Manning off the field, and he hadn't broken anything.
He hadn't broken anything, and that young guy from Auburn lost. So that was fun. So that's as far as I got with the whole thing. And I guess Rabbi Freeman's going to tell me that there was obviously some meeting here that I missed.
Right. And that's why when you read the Talmud, people like read it, and then they want to, look, what kind of book is this? This is ridiculous. And right. And a man talks to rivers. And and he even plays hardball with the river. The river is trying to negotiate, have a conversation.
He was nice.
And the Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, he says, listen, if you don't split, I'll dry you up permanently. Which means whenever you get into a conversation, you're not getting your way, just threaten.
That's pretty much
that'll do it. And then of course he responds to the threat, right? So. This in any time you have these passages in the Talmud, you actually know this is sort of like a blue light special. You know something's going on here, and there's some really deep idea that's being encapsulated because this section here is what they call Agada. Agada. It's like the story parts. It's not halachic, meaning it doesn't teach you any laws. We don't learn any legal laws or illegal isms from this.
Right.
We're just getting some type of insight into life and living.
Right.
So what's the story?
No idea.
Okay. You got the rabbi. He is on his way to free captives. So in these type of stories, you have to pay attention to the details. The details are really important, maybe even more important than the story. He's on his way to free captives. Well, he could have been on his way to do anything. He could have been on his way to morning services. He could have been on his way to film, to record Jeff and the Rabbi. You know?
That's pretty important.
Why was he on his way, do you say specifically on his way to redeem captives?
I assume that's a pretty important task.
Really important. As a matter of fact, redeeming captives is about the most important mitzvah there is.
I didn't know that.
Really interesting, yes. If someone is captured and you can redeem them back, then that's about the most important mitzvah there is. So much so that they'll sell the Torah.
Wow.
Right out of the ark in the synagogue. They'll sell the Torah. If that would raise money to redeem captives, they'll sell the Torah even.
Oh, okay.
That's really big mitzvah. So now he gets to the river. He gets to the river, he can't get across the river. This is the Ginai River. Wherever that is, I have no idea. He gets to this river and he can't get across the river. He's got to get across the river. So he says to the river, he says, listen, river, you are part of the physical world here. Your job is to see to it that I can do my job. I'm doing my job. I'm going to free the captive. You got to participate. You got to help out. If I can't get across, I mean, obviously there wasn't a bridge and there wasn't a boat or anything like that. He needed to get across. He said, I need to get across. So the river came back with a very good argument. The river said, you know what you're asking me to do? You are asking me to stop being a river.
Right, yeah.
Well, you know, God made me, and God made me to do what I'm supposed to do. And as a matter of fact, right now, I am what I am supposed to be doing, flowing. As the verse says, and all the rivers flow to the sea. I'm busy flowing to the sea. Get off my back. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm flowing to the sea. Leave me alone. To which, and then he says, not only that, Rabbi, you're asking for a miracle. You want to upset nature? Where do you have a right to ask for a miracle? Right? And you know, this is a question that we could all ask ourselves, right? How can this happen? Maybe I should. Maybe I even try to do what, because it will mean a miracle. Right. I'm not the smartest guy. I can't go to medical school. Or I'm not the this or that. I can't do this. I can't do that. I'm not such a brilliant guy. I don't even know how to read Hebrew. I can't read the Talmud. And on and on and on. There's a million and one things that you can't do that you could decide already that you can't do. I can't afford to give that charity. I'm not such a wealthy guy. And on and on. You come up with a million of them. Right. And therefore, what do? You know, go on to the next guy. Rabbi Pinchas ben Yoyer. He could have said the same thing. Instead, how is it that he decided, I'm going to go save the captives, even though it means asking for a miracle? Where do you have a right to ask for a miracle? So the river says, in the hierarchy of things, you don't deserve a miracle. After all, life is all about serving God. I'm serving God. Now, you would like to serve God, but who says that you're even going to be successful in doing what you're doing? Maybe you won't serve God. Me, the river, I'm doing my service to God. So where do you have a right for a maybe to ask God to restructure the world so that it should fit you? Who says that you have a right to do that? Right? And you know, we're all in similar situations where there's something that's maybe beyond us and someone says, I really want to do this. You know, the truth is, it'll take a miracle. I don't care. I want to do it. Where do you like to ask for a miracle?
Okay.
See? So this is what the rabbi answers him. And this is a very insightful thing and an important thing for all of us to realize. This is so important. For every person that has a hopeless situation. Now, I want everyone out there to raise your hand if you have a hopeless situation. Let's say that. Yeah? Oh, yeah. Right. Okay. There's only one guy that didn't raise his hand. Right. Yeah. He was asleep. Because everybody...
Well, the fact there's only one guy asleep, I'm not believing that, but okay.
Everybody's got a hopeless situation, right? I don't care if it's like, you know, a hopeless marriage, a hopeless social situation, a hopeless a career problem.
Yeah,
You know, everyone's got them. A hopeless, like with my coworker, some people have medical issues. I mean, you know, hopeless medical issues. Everyone's got a hopeless situation. Okay. Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, he doesn't respond to the river. Interestingly enough, so he's got an argument, but he doesn't use his argument. What's his argument? His argument is that I am doing the mitzvah. You know what the mitzvah is? Redeeming. There's not a mitzvah of redeeming captives. You know what the mitzvah is? The mitzvah is trying to redeem captives.
Interesting. Okay.
Your obligation is to try. You have to try, right? You can't just sit around. You got to try. Now, whether you be successful or you won't be successful, well, there's a lot of factors beyond your control. How do I know when I get there? Maybe I won't have enough money. Maybe they'll already be gone when I get there. Maybe they won't respond to me. Who knows? I mean, I don't know. You know, it's a real ticklish thing, redeeming captives. You know, you got to negotiate. They'll raise the price. Maybe the person died by the time I got there. Maybe the captive died already. Who knows?
Right.
Maybe I won't even find them. I mean, I got to go. Who knows where they are? You know, they're not like sitting around at the in the captive station. You know, so I don't know. But you know what? I've got to try. So what Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair could have said to the river was, I am doing the mitzvah. My obligation is to try. I am serving God right now by trying. It's not predicated on my success or failure in freeing the captive. It's predicated on the extent to which I am trying to free the captive. So you say, river, you say, I'm not splitting for you because I'm doing God's will and you're only maybe going to do God's will.
Right. Well, that sounds like a logical argument for the river.
To which Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair says, no, you don't get it. I am doing God's will right now by trying.
Just by trying, okay.
Now, why didn't he explain that to the river?
Not sure.
Because you know what? Rivers are just not so smart.
So he's kind of an elitist kind of guy, and thinking the river just doesn't understand.
And the river would never have understood.
Right.
Rivers don't get it. Rivers don't get it. Trees don't get it. The squirrels don't get it. Lots of things don't get it. You know what they don't get? They don't understand. Trying is something that is reserved for people that have free will. If you don't have free will, what's the purpose in trying?
Well, that's
because
true.
Trying means I decided to try. If you're a squirrel, you get up in the morning and you go to work, you go look for nuts. You can't help but get nuts. You find the nuts and you squirrel them away. And then you go get more nuts and you squirrel them away. And that's all you know how to do as a squirrel is get nuts, squirrel them away, procreate, feed the babies, get nuts, and then one day you die. Right? You know you're supposed to grow a bushy tail in the winter or something like that, right? You know what you're supposed to do. You get up every day. You go about your business. You know, you never have goof-off squirrels. You never have squirrels that get depressed. You don't have squirrels that get stuck in addiction. You don't get squirrels that are dysfunctional.
I've seen a dysfunctional squirrel.
Right.
Yeah, in the backyard.
Right. Okay. Well,
maybe
he's eating the nuts, and, you know, from like some from the wrong tree or something like that.
I don't know.
But generally, they get up and they do what they are supposed to do because they don't have free will. God didn't give the river free will.
Well, he might have. Wait a minute. You're about to say he did give the river free will.
No. Nope.
The river changed his mind.
No. So this is why the rabbi said, you must do this, otherwise you are out of business. What does that mean? If you don't listen to this and you don't understand that your job is to serve God, and that means do what I need from you.
Right.
The river's job is to do what man needs from it. And if the river's not going to do what man needs from it, well, I'm going to just shut you down.
So I guess that's not free will.
You only have one choice. Your choices are one. You do what I say, or I shut you down. We don't need rivers like you around if you're going to start opening your mouth and trying to make decisions. Decisions are for people who have free will. And that's why I have free will, and I exercise my free will by trying to save the captives. I'm doing a mitzvah right now. I know you don't get that because you only think if I'm successful in freeing the captives, am I doing a mitzvah? But that's not the way it is for people. It's trying to do the mitzvah is the success. And I can't even explain it to you, so let's just cut to the chase. If you don't do what I say, I'm shutting you down. You are here in this world, the river, the tree, the squirrel, everyone's here to make a world so man can live their free will. And that's why you must listen to me, and I'm not going to explain it.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay? Wow. And that is a really important lesson for all of us. Because everybody, Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, could have said, I got to free the captives. But there's that river out there. How in the world am I going to get across the river? I can't get across. It's a big, raging river, and I don't know how to get across. I don't have a boat. Maybe the bridge is like way too far away. The ferry boat is way too far away. I can't get across the river. I wish I could have freed the captives, but what can I do? I can't get across the river. Pinchas ben Yair said, listen, I'm going. When I get to the river, what about when you get to the river? Well, when I get to the river, we'll figure it out then.
Okay, I like the attitude. Some would say not realistic, but it's a great attitude.
That's right, not realistic, because people, when they say not realistic, they are living in the same reality of the river. They don't realize that they could be living in a reality where they're in service of God. And do they get up and they attempt and endeavor to do what they can to the extent that they can? So you say, well, why didn't he do some other mitzvah or something like that? Most likely, he thought no one else is going to try to save the captive. I've got to do it. How am I going to get across the river? I don't know, but I got to try. I have to try, because if I don't, what's going to be? So he went ahead and he tried, and he said to the river, you got to help me out here. That's your job. Your job is to help man, and I'm doing God's will right now because I decided to get up and try. And that's why each and every one of us is stuck in our situation with our rotten relationship or our rotten circumstance or whatever it is. Each and every one of us can say, you know what? It doesn't have to be this way. I can try to make it better.
The mitzvah is really just trying to do it. Getting up off your butt and going out there and doing it.
That's right.
That's the mitzvah.
And look at the other guy. Who's the next guy? So then the river splits.
Right.
So he says, oh, by the way,
my
dear friend here, I guess he bumped into him along the road. They were fellow travelers. So he was traveling with his wheat. He had wheat, which he was going to have milled to make into matzah, flour for matzahs for Passover. Okay, so was he doing a mitzvah?
He was on his way to do a mitzvah.
Right, so we see that even the guy who's on his way to do something which will enable something, which will enable him, it's even a couple of, he's got wheat. Right. He's going to a mill, then it's got to be made into flour, and then the flour's got to be made into matzahs, and then he's got to eat the matzah. Then
he's got a mitzvah.
The mitzvah is to eat the matzah, but that's already a bunch of steps down the road. Even attempting to make the steps to prepare the way to do the mitzvah already deserves the road.
At this point, the river was just given in.
Right.
Got it.
Right. So then, then what about number 3 guy?
The Arab guy got a little confused.
The Arab guy, okay. So I said, let's picture this, says Pinchas ben Yair. So the river splits, and me and the matzah guy, we walk through. And then the Arab starts to walk into the river and, comes.
That's what you think is going to happen.
Right. So what is that Arab going to say?
Well, that's not.
He's going to say, blankety blank river? Or blankety blank Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair?
I think he's going for the rabbi.
Right. Right. For sure. He's going to curse out the rabbi. Right? He's going to be livid with the rabbi. He says, Pinchas ben Yair says, listen, river, I understand. You don't need, we wouldn't be splitting for the merchant. Right? He's not doing any mitzvah or anything. But you've got to understand, this is going to look really bad for us. If we go through, we don't want to create enmity, hatred, amongst people. So you got to split for him too and let him across, because it just would really look bad. He'd think, what a bunch of jerks you guys are. You know, at the last stop, I bought you guys all coffee. I paid for the coffee.
Right.
And now you leave me behind on the other side. It's not nice. It's not nice. So he said, I'm sorry, River, you know, you're going to have to split for him too. So River either stayed split or split for him.
Right.
And all three got across. When Rabbi Yosef heard that story, he says, wow. He says, this Rabbi Pinchas ben Yor, that's Moses. That's really on par with Moses, the greatest Jew in the world. What did God say? Moses says the people are backed up against the sea. And Moses says, God, what should I do? I mean, the Egyptians are coming and the sea is here. So God says, well, tell them to travel. Move. But the sea is here and the Egyptians are there. They said, move. So they start walking into the sea and the sea splits. Right. In other words, you don't know what your choice is. You just do whatever it is you have to do and you'll see what happens.
Right.
You'll just see what happens. And the main thing is you're going to be judged. If you stop and you say, but it's impossible, then truthfully, you know, if your back's up against the river, I'm sure if there was a bridge a mile down or something like that, maybe you should to just demand the river to split when you could have taken the bridge. No, we don't do that. But when your back is up against the wall and you say, I can't get across, well, who runs this world anyway? What do you mean you can't? God made the river.
God, once you get across, you're going to get across.
Right. So I got to try. If he does, and guess what? If I don't get across, then I guess God didn't want me to get across. And if I do get across, then God did want me to get across. But you know, if I don't try, I will never know. My job is not even to get across. My job is to try.
Wow. That's interesting. That's very easy. Just like that Nachman guy, I guess, with Moses. He just walked into the river and he was the first guy. Right.
Nachman. Nachman went up to his nose.
Right.
You know, went up to his nose. Someone said to me, why did he go up to his nose? Well, it can't go much farther. I mean, once it gets past your nose, you're pretty much done for. So he went up to his nose, and that's it, you know.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So we got this cute little story here in the Talmud. Cute little story. But there's a lot going on here. This is a pretty heavy story. And actually, this should be a tremendous source of encouragement to a lot of people.
You would think so.
That today, you don't have to succeed. You don't have to fix yourself and fix your problem and all that. But you do have to try. And if you tried, you can go to bed tonight and you can say, listen, I tried. That's all I can do.
Do everything you could possibly do. That's what you mean by trying.
And don't think, you know, what we do is, I was just recently in a seminar, and in this seminar, they had we played a game. Came into a big room, and they had games on the table, all the same games. It was like a board game. These executive, enrichment, development seminars.
Right. I usually skip those.
So I go in and so I sit down and say, find 3 other guys and sit down and play the game. So they have you playing this game. You're at this end of the table, there's 4 guys at that end, 4 guys, the whole room's full of these groups of 4 playing the table. Okay, I don't know how many there were, maybe 100 people there or something like that. And we're all playing the game. In this game, they got these cards, like in Monopoly, you know, Pass Go and all that stuff, right? And these cards can help you out. So they set a rule. One of the rules they said at the beginning of the game was, the only rules are the ones that we tell you, and then they tell us some of the rules. Anything else, you can do whatever you want.
Okay. So
at the end of the game ended, they said, okay, you know, how many guys won, and then how many guys could have used the such and such a card? A lot of people raised their hand. How many guys could have used some card, you know, and what happened? Well, we had already played that card. It had already gone through, and we didn't have it. So he said, how many of those cards are there in this room? So, well, everyone thought, well, there's, let's say, 25 sets of 4 people paying, and there's 25 of those cards in the room. So did anyone think of, getting up and going to one of the other people and saying, do you guys have one of those cards? You know, maybe I could swap a card with you? No one thought of that. Why not? Well, because they were not part of our game. But we told you. The only rule is the rules we tell you.
Interesting, right.
Right? So, you want to get up and go to the other guy. Maybe you negotiate. You'll trade some of yours for his or whatever it is, So just think, this is what they call thinking outside the box.
Right.
Don't have self-limiting thoughts. Most people will think, I cannot fix my relationship because this person that I'm dealing with is so irreparably broken because of their parents and because of this episode and because of this and because they're like this and I'm like that. And then, we got all the reasons why we can't try. And if we think, okay, so there's a river here. I need to get across the river. Okay, what am I going to do? Say, God, come on, I need to get across this river, and the river doesn't have any right to stand in my way. That's what we have to start thinking.
That's interesting.
Bolder, broader, we've got to try and push the envelope for the extent to which we try.
Wow. If I would have thought that if I would have got that when I read this thing, I might have been more interested. And
and that's
what
why
is the rabbi talking about?
That's why I want you to appreciate that when you
appreciate
get a little story like this in the Talmud, you have to stop and say, I wonder what's going on with that story. There must be something deep, otherwise they wouldn't have stuck it into the Talmud.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Yeah, last night I was just thinking, okay, well, I'm done. I read it. Rabbi said, read it. I read it. Now I get it. Makes sense. And actually, and it's a very good point. It's a very good point that I think everyone could probably use in their lives, probably like every day. Because we all are stopped at the obstacles that are right in front of us. Never think that maybe we can just walk around.
Right. Now, Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, he had a donkey.
Is this a whole new story?
He had a donkey with him.
At this story, he did? I didn't know that.
Had a donkey. You didn't hear about him.
Wow.
Didn't hear about him yet, but there's a part 2 of the story.
Oh, I'd maybe go home tonight.
How's that for a teaser, huh? How's that for a teaser? Everyone's rushing out to their Talmuds.
I got to go read this.
Chulin 7a, and actually on to the top of 7b.
By the way, does he talk to the donkey?
The donkey, no, they don't really. The donkey doesn't converse, but the donkey definitely is. The donkey definitely expresses himself. Yes.
I've had things with donkeys expressing themselves to me as well.
Yep.
Interesting. This is good stuff.
Okay.
I'm excited about it. I learned something today.
That's right.
Didn't think I was going to. I got to be honest.
You didn't think you're going to. You didn't have faith,
I have faith now.
Yeah, I think you had limiting beliefs. Is that what you had?
Now
you had
I've opened up my mind a little bit more.
Right. There you
Good
go.
stuff this Talmud here. I'd recommend it.
Okay.
2 thumbs up for me. That's it. All right. Next week, maybe something as intriguing and as interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll see.
See you then.